Guys, welcome back to episode 3 of the Dyson Sphere program and to the channel. So right now we're heading up to finish the Equatorial power range. As I told you guys at the end of last episode, I wanted to complete the Equatorial power range network off screen, since it's a lot of foundation laying and a lot of tedious wind turbine placing and making sure we place them at the right distance. So right now we've got a few turbines on us, and we got about 3,000 foundations from our foundation farm that we created last episode, and pretty much the entire focus of last episode was that. So currently, you can kind of see we produce 109 megawatts, and we barely use even 20, which is actually really good for us, and these wind turbines will produce power constantly for the foreseeable future. Well, forever, basically. I plan to hopefully leave this here, with maybe removing small portions of it and replacing it with upgraded power plants later on, of course. But for now, it is a massive power range of just wind turbines. Now, there's a disadvantage to the situation being that the major disadvantage right now is we don't have solar. Oopsie. We don't have solar panels, though, and as I discussed last episode, that requires silicon, and we don't have any silicon nodes on the planet we're on, which is NF4. NF4? I'm not quite sure how we pronounced that the first time, but NF4, the fourth planet in the solar system, the planet we start on, sadly doesn't start with silicon nodes, and this is, I believe, a general starting to the game itself. You don't start with these power nodes, or you don't start with the silicon nodes on your planet, so that you actually have to venture out fairly soon and get some technologies research to complete your tree and get that online. So I'm just going to place the rest of these turbines on screen here. And as you can see, it doesn't take very much to complete the power range here. And in fact, we're done. I'm going to go ahead and quickly pause while I venture back around to the other side of the planet. And I'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. So we're in the star map really quickly here. We can see our planet circling this planet gas giant. And then we have a planet arid desert and a planet lava planet, which is close to the inner core of the sun, which is actually kind of cool to look at. And we are a planet Mediterranean, and we are considered a satellite because we're a satellite of the gas giant, of course. But without further ado, let me go ahead and show you the completed massive Equatorial power range. Now, once this is fully completed, it'll actually have a lot better of a purpose. Essentially, right now, because it's only completed with the wind turbines, we produce our constant power all the way around the node. Once we get solar panels in here, we'll produce power from our solar arrays from this point on the planet all the way over here to this point. And then as the planet rotates, we will gain solar arrays on either side and lose on the opposite, which is actually pretty cool to look at. Now over here, we can kind of check out what we've got going here. We've got our foundation production factory, which we're still producing foundations. We've got our small coal node and our first energy matrix facility. And off screen, I set this facility up over here to help produce wind turbines and get some of the basic resources so that we could hopefully not spend so much time in the crafting menu, continuously crafting items that we don't necessarily want to wait on. Of course, one of the items we crafted a whole bunch of while we waited were the Storter Mark IIs, and I'm going to quickly just set this down to 23 so that when I take stuff out, it doesn't auto-fill. The other thing I set up off screen was conveyor belts, because I was sick of having to produce those to do more and more production. So of course, I also produced wind turbines off screen. This is how we completed the Equatorial power range, because it would have taken me probably like 8-9 hours to craft every one of these by hand, even with the resources completed. So, of course, we avoided that. Now, off screen, I also did some other crafting to get us started in today's episode focus, which is going to be producing our next tier, which it completed off screen for the research, the unlocked energy matrices, which are basically the step up from the blue cube to the red cube, which will allow us to do more research into like magnetic levitation technology and hydrogen fuel rods and polymer chemical engineering and deuterium fabrication, high-speed assembling, our next tier of logistic systems. In fact, our next 2 tiers of logistic systems. Of course, this requires the structure matrix, which we unlock down here in structure matrix, which will be kind of a focus of trying to get to that so that we can get our next major upgrade headed towards, which is the interstellar and interplanetary logistic systems, which I want to focus on for the next couple episodes, trying to head towards those so that we can get some off-world production, major off-world production started. Now, heading over here, we've got this setup over here, which produces our current energy matrices, and we're going to want to upgrade that to be able to produce our red energy matrices, which, to craft a red energy cube, or the energy matrix, rather than the electromagnetic matrix, we need 2 energetic graphite, which is produced from coal, and we need 2 hydrogen, which is produced by plasma refining, which is essentially the refining of crude oil, which we get from these beautiful crude oil veins. And in the gathering screen here, you can craft your building, oil extractor, and oil refinery. And of course, I built 2 refineries, or extractors, off screen so that we can begin our production of crude oil and structure matrices. Now, as you can see, we did see these the first episode, which were the oil extractors, and working on today's stuff, I want to work with a little bit of finesse on the side that I want to make everything look fairly industrial. So we're going to actually bring this over and connect this into the main base area here, or the Equatorial power range, as it will so nicely be named. And we're going to bring this in just by simply building a bunch of foundations around. And we're going to focus on setting this one up. And then I'm going to set the second one up off screen so that you don't have to watch the tedious process multiple times. Now, coming out of here, I want to set up on the rear where we can... Well, okay, wait. Let me just make sure that that is... Yeah, okay, so we can only come out the front. That's right. That's fine. So, storage, I did forget to produce, so we'll queue that up in energy, one of these tanks, which requires access to a little bit of concrete, and we're going to queue up all 4 of those, essentially. But we're going to set a tank up just outside of here, and we'll set it up just one off there. Now, with these machines... Okay, so the oil extractor works just like these extractors and comes straight out, and the tanks allow you to go straight in and out without having to build any connections, which means oil can be immediately extracted. Now, I'm going to set up right off of here a power network so that we can start producing some crude oil. Now, we're going to need... apparently I built a ton of chemical plants, which was the wrong thing to build. That's going to be fun. So to make these, we need glass. So do we have... We have some crafting materials over here. I set these 4 storages off to the side so that we can, of course, have some storage for crafted stuff. We also have this storage over here, which is nice to have. This allows us to keep a few computer chips and stuff on hand that are automatically crafted for the electromagnetic matrices, which off-screen completely filled up because we, of course, don't have anything more that takes just blue cubes for research. So, should now be able to build a few oil refineries, and we're going to build all 8 of those. And as you can see what I mean by the time, so I'm going to go ahead and pause recording while we wait for these to finish, and then get right back to it. Hey guys, okay, so now we are nicely solved. We've got our oil refineries up, and I queued a few more just to be on the safe side. And so our oil refineries here are going to be a little bit of kind of an interesting situation. So I wasn't 100% sure on how I wanted to run them, and they are certainly a little bit of a confusing machine because they provide a little bit of a unique opposition. Now, we can check this. So, part of the issue is that the output on these machines has to come from exclusively... It can come from one side or it can come from two. Now, if we go from the standard perspective, we can pull resources out here, and we can pull resources out here. Now, that basically will be our main goal here. So, if we go to our production tab, we're going to build another one of these, rotate it around so that the rear is facing that direction. And, of course, we're going to have another set of conveyor belts coming out here with our refinery here. Now, something that is important to note is to click on your refinery and check your product you'll be producing, which takes 4 seconds and 2 refined oils. So essentially, it takes 2 seconds per refined oil, which means you need 30 30 crude oil per machine. Now that is 30, and that is 60, and that is 90, and we produce 140, so we can get away with 4 oil refineries on this one machine, which is actually a good note to know because we can get away with the 4. It is important to register that aspect and understand that we can certainly put another conveyor belt in here. Now, this actually provides us a little bit of a situation that needs to be remedied, which is the fact that these are not on our original planned list, but we can just expand that out and it looks fine. Now, coming out of the rear here, this is perfectly lined up to bring us all of our oil right off these right out of that main oil tank, which will store that small portion of extra crude oil that we're producing, and actually has about 2,000 liquid in it currently, due to the fact that, of course, we were sitting here for a minute waiting for that crafting to finish. So let's go ahead and queue, make sure that we set up all of our building. And, of course, I actually want to disconnect this from power for just a moment here, because we're producing refined oil now. So now the question becomes, how do we take care of that extra liquid, and what do we do with it? Well, we're going to need the hydrogen in a storage tank, but the crude oil, the refined oil as it be, I don't want to just dump. So we're going to place a tank here. Now this tank is going to be basically, if I can click on the right thing here, mapped into this. And this will be pretty simple here. These can actually, and this is something I like about this game, its conveyors are kind of nice in a way that it allows you to do these connections where it runs straight, and you don't actually need any of these sorters to do anything with. And of course, we're going to actually end up having to change that and change that really quickly. We're going to use a 4-direction splitter and set it to the grounded 4 here. which we're going to bring to there. Now, with good reason. Okay, so our output will have a filter of refined oil, which means that we can indiscriminately pull out of each one of these machines, and only the refined oil will go in that direction, while coming out of this direction and heading towards our main power system till there, and then headed over to there. And of course, we're going to use a storage, which we didn't build yet, because I'm a little bit of an idiot, and we're going to wait on momentarily here. Is fine. Now, pulling out of each side of these beautiful refineries will be our machines here, and of course, as you can see, the refined oil goes through, and the rest of these machines don't really do anything, and you don't have to even set a single filter to depend on what comes out of the machine, because it's basically set for you. As our power guideline states, we should have power. So we're going to run the power through like that, and I'm actually going to set up a power that's going to look a little bit better to route around the machinery, and even we're going to come back here and actually have another power line, but it all looks fine and dandy. Now, those machines are all producing, and of course, we need that storage to go in to basically allow for the conveyor to put the hydrogen somewhere for storage for the current situation, which will allow the refined oil to be processed from the machinery, and it'll go through. It'll take some time to clear up, but once it's cleared up, it'll go pretty quickly here. As you can see, it's clearing up all the machines, and there's basically nothing left on that conveyor using this nice splitter, and we've already got some refined oil being produced. Now, of course, I'm going to pause the recording for a few moments so that I can go over and complete the other side of this system, which I'm probably going to bring over here, and I'll explain that later when we get back. But, as you can see, nice and calm system, and beautifully organized so that the whole system works really well. Now, I will be back momentarily. Okay, welcome back again. So we finished this secondary production block, which this vein produces substantially less crude oil, which does lead to the fact that we, I believe, only need 3 of these facilities can run at max. But this one does every once in a while receive 1 or 2 crude oil, and it actually does work. So I went ahead and left it on. We're producing a backup of hydrogen here, and we're producing a backup of hydrogen over there. Now, the one nice thing about hydrogen backup is hydrogen can be burnt as a fuel source in your mecha, which is actually kind of interesting considering, well, I mean, it's hydrogen, right? So it works. We got this power facility set up here. We got a little bit of power connectivity. We did have to remove one of the stone machines, which does put us at a deficit to our foundation production for now, but we'll work on fixing that probably in between episodes. I'll probably make that a little bit more pretty. For now, we need to basically complete, now that we have our oil production, or our hydrogen production, and refined oil production up, we can actually begin the next phase of the plan, which is actually to set up a proper research center, which was kind of my hope to get done this episode, which looks like we will. So I've ran the hydrogen down along our power network, which should work fairly nicely. And we're going to need to take some gathering machines and gather some coal. Now, to gather enough coal isn't going to be that hard, but we're going to be on the safe side of production quotas, and we're going to set up 3 of those, and we're going to go ahead and increase the size of our tool here. And again, I'm on the invisible foundations so that they can be placed and I can consume some soil. We're going to set up a small area over here, which is going to be turned into our graphite production facility, and where we're going to produce our red energy cubes. So we're going to actually seal up a little bit more of this ocean, which is a little unfortunate. we're going to need some of the smelters, which are going to be set up in a system of connectivity here. We're going to set up a total of 6 for now. I would like, we can do 2 more and not really hurt the quota. So these are going to come out. This is going to come out, and this one's going to come out to there. This is going to go up, and this is going to supply each one of these. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if we have 8 of these and we have 3 of these machines, each one can't supply its own 3 machines, but each one can supply. The middle one's going to supply 2 machines. Well, actually, can I set up a way to convert off that? No. So it looks like this machine will support that, and then what we'll do with this one here is we'll make it a little bit more interesting, and we'll run it over like so, up, and then over. And that will finish our other 3 machines off, and we'll run our conveyors in. Each one of these being the shorter conveyors, which is beautifully done. Then we're going to have these all run in a line over to here and then up to here. We're, of course, going to throw a storage facility on there, which will be storing all of our energetic graphite. We'll go ahead and put our outputs set up. And so now that we've got that all set up there, off screen, I built a few of these research matrices labs, which are going to be used, and I'm going to quickly increase our foundation size by 3 all the way over. Actually, I guess we'll go 4 because I don't want to break that. So research matrices here. And actually, 4, looks like 4 is the right amount. So as we go over, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 of these labs. All 3 tall. And we're going to run these nodes over here. And we're going to run 1 output there. We're going to run 1 input there, 1 input there, 1 input there, and 1 input there. Then, that actually now our whole facility now needs power, which is going to be a question of trying to get on the same node here. Okay, we'll be there. That'll work. That'll work. And we'll just place a block of these, which will all give power to facilities in need. And these will be producing red cubes. In each tower of 3, we will see the production of red cubes, which should all take energetic graphite in their facility list. So, energetic graphite, which is going to be a pretty large resource into the future, because it actually is also a fuel that can be burnt in coal refineries. Or, sorry, not coal refineries, in our geothermal, or in our, is that what they're called? Geothermal? No, thermal power stations. I don't know why I was thinking geothermal. That's lava power. In our thermal power stations, which we have a few over here that are just burning regular old coal, we'll eventually, hopefully, set up a network to produce some energetic graphite for them. We'll also we'll set up a few, probably a few block over here of them to burn refined oil. But for now, we have energetic graphite to thank for the majority of our power concerns. And coming off of that node, I'll set this there. That will power all 3 of those. which should hopefully produce enough. This makes 30 a minute and consumes 2, so we need 60 a minute for each one. This produces 210, which is more than enough to fill all 3 of those. Of course, our graphite's being pushed out. Then our hydrogen is going to come down and hit this node here, then come over. It's actually a little bit of a test. I want to test to see if something works. So we're going to actually connect that up via that. And I want to see if going like this, going from, nope, there's considered too close, which is unfortunate. Which means, unfortunately, that won't work. So I will need a way to get red cubes out, which is going to have to be the middle of each one of these. I have a little bit of an idea that'll hopefully look pretty cool once it's done. Let's make this a little bit of a bigger area here. Our red cubes will come out, connect to there, go from there to there, then go from there to there, then go into here. And our hydrogen can actually come over like that. And normally we'll run red cubes out. Normally I wouldn't do this, but we can set up longer conveyors, which will actually kind of look cool, to power or give the necessary hydrogen to these facilities. And we'll do 2 per. That way there's a little bit more of a feeling of the size. And I'm going to break this one so that it actually goes in straight like it should. And then that all looks fine and dandy. And we'll delete this last little hydrogen piece here. And our hydrogen will come over. Of course, I have no more power transfer taps, so we'll just grab a few more of Tesla's wireless towers to transmit our energy. And we'll go with a node there and there for the purpose of allowing hydrogen into these cube factories. And our cube factories will start producing cubes right away. And I want a storage for cubes, which, what not a better place to go than right there. And the way I'm going to do this is 1 in the middle and 1 out there and 1 out there. With a good reason that you will understand in a moment. Now we're going to run this conveyor into there, and we're going to swap this around, and we're going to go down to the 4 tile size, and we're going to run like that. And because I don't really want the invisible tiles here, we're just going to invisible tile that so that it looks like a nice facility. And actually, I might get rid of that as well. Yeah, that looks good. So essentially, what is the point of this over here? This will allow 1 cube to go in for every 2 cubes that come out, which is basically double the input. And actually, those should probably be... No, that's fine. Now, the reason we're doing a 2 cube out to 1 cube in is so that production-wise, your size stays the same. Now, because there's a node here of copper, we can't have solar panels anyway, but what we can do is go up 2 and go right over the node and come out to where we don't intervene, and then go down, and we can run this along here. Now the point of this will be to eventually, well, for now, it is going to be entirely to come over to here. And it will actually feed our research, our right now research center, which is going to be made up of a few more blocks of these. And I actually lied on where that will be placed. That'll be placed there, and we will break that down and place that there. Then we will go between here and grab this, go to there. We're going to break that connection there, and we're going to grab our power facility. This will all be changed out eventually, with the future hope being slightly different designed, but for now, the best way to do this is cheaply and efficiently and make it still look somewhat decent. So, oh, we need to come over another 2. And we need a input on, we got an input there, we got an input there, and an input there. Then we need an input for the red cubes there, input for red cubes there, input for red cubes there, and an input for red cubes there. And all of these will be set to help with research. And because we're running low on power, I did build these off screen as well, and I forgot to mention that so far. These are basically wireless transmission terminals for your mecha, which the way I'm using them is I'm just keeping them as like mobile, basically the ability to keep a mobile battery on hand. As you can see, basically for every 1 cube that goes in, 2 cubes come out, and that keeps a pretty constant cube amount on the chopping block, which allows for cubes to be rapidly put into these. And this is of course lacking power now, so let's go ahead and put some power in here. That gave everything power. And we have a basically terminal over here for those, and we have a terminal here for these as well, so that they keep going and are very well used. Now I'm going to put the hydrogen in there for fuel chamber, and we're going to queue up our next set of researches, which, first of all, I want to do the high efficiency logistics system and the, well, we'll need thruster tech. So we'll go down here, and the next thing I want to grab is magnetic levitation technology. And we're going to need hydrogen fuel rods and thruster tech. And then interplanetary logistics systems, which requires vertical construction, which will be in your upgrades terminal. But before we do that, I want to queue communication control, mecha core, mecha frame is something I want to queue, along with mechanical frame, which currently puts us at our queue limit. We have a few more minutes in the episode, so as you can see though, these red cubes come out in pretty high quantity, and essentially we should have more than enough hydrogen. I think the main concern is this produces, the recipe takes 6 seconds, so that's basically per tower it's basically down to 2 seconds per cube, if you think about it. Or 2 seconds for 1 cube, or 6 seconds for 3. Now, if we go for the 6 seconds for 1 cube, that takes 2 graphite. So if you take that 2 graphite, then it takes 1 graphite every 3 seconds, which is roughly 20 graphite per minute to produce 10 of these per minute. So 20 graphite per minute. These all produce 30 graphite per minute, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, producing a grand total. Sorry, they produce 30 a minute, so they each produce enough graphite for one of these essentially, and between them they produce enough to keep them all running. This looks like it is lacking graphite, which is going to be a problem. So a way to solve that problem, because the problem apparently is how much is going in, we're going to simply do a 2 system here, which is going to take 1 there and 1 there, and then we're going to go in with both of those. That allows a lot more graphite to be kept on the line continuously, because graphite's going to move quicker and allow each production facility to make the graphite. which should allow graphite to reach, hopefully, the end of the terminal. Okay, we're generating more graphite in there than we're actually taking out, which is going to is the next problem you have to address. So we will set up a little bit of an exportation bus here to move the graphite out at a much higher rate. Basically a continuous stream of graphite. And it looks a little bit stupid. And essentially we can actually get rid of, for this, the second set here. And realistically, I mean, we can get rid of this over here and just have the dual system, because that should move a continuous amount, because this will make not the conveyor belt, we need the sorter, makes 3 trips per second, and these transport 6 items per second. So essentially between the two of them, making 3 trips per second, they transport all of the cargo and allow for a high rate. Now you could also do a slight bypass system if you wanted to, like this, and actually have it completely avoid the going in if you wanted to, and just cutting the neck off of this. But that is a little bit more of a, basically a way to save some conveyor space, because essentially the way this sets up, this takes in half and this will move out half, which means this basically is a bypass meant to just produce more cubes, which works out really well. And magnetic levitation already done. As you can see, the speed is wonderful. We've got like a solid block of cubes here. The reason we want this storage here is so that we can produce more cubes than we can consume. And as time goes on, we can take those cubes and put them back into the research system if we consume research, to do research if we consume cubes faster, which would require me to build actually an additional one of these towers that was completely, well, actually would require me to build at minimum at least 2 more matrix centers to do research with the red cube production. For blue cube production, that's a little bit of a different story. You can see we're pulling from our reserves to keep up with the red cube production, and that is simply because we only have 1 tower producing blue or electromagnetic matrices, and we have 3 full towers consuming and a half tower. So this is one of the keynotes that is kind of overlooked quite often. There is vertical construction in this game for quite a few things, including vertical construction for like refined fuel, which allows you to, if I'm not mistaken, when this fills up, it'll move into this second storage tank and basically just, keep going. And the bottom acts as the input and outputs for both tanks, but the top tank does allow more storage space, so you can have a huge reserve of it. And as you can see, we're still actually, here we're burning crude oil too quickly, which is something I may consider running a crude oil line over to that tank and allowing for that facility to run a little bit more efficiently, because it is high on crude oil. Now, we just finished our hydrogen fuel rod, which actually gives us 3 research spots we can use right now. So, that is something you need to keep in mind. So this, we're going to need to queue that up, and that can actually come a little bit later. I want the cracking up. Titanium smelting, something we will need, but I want to focus, again, a little bit more into the upgrades section for our research right now, including increasing our inventory capacity, 2 tiers, and we've got all that queued. Queue is full currently, so that's fine. And as you can see, we've got plenty of the blue cubes, but we're waiting on the red cubes to completely burn themselves through here. So again, this is something you can consider. I'm lacking plates, so there's plates there. This is something, again, a lot of people kind of overlook the whole idea that you can, obviously, we can stack that one taller, and we can stack, you know, another full tower. And to feed these 2 additional towers we just built, I'm going to come off of and as you can see, we've actually managed to hit a point where we've consumed our storage of cubes, and we're not producing them quick enough with this matrix tower over here. Which is something you have to keep in mind. We are only producing so many, and as you can see, it actually does move these along. It actually spaces them all, like, exactly. So you get a 3, and then a 4, and then a 2, and then a 3, and then a 1. I don't know. It's kind of a weird look, and I think what it is, we're lacking hydrogen, because this consumes, to make one of these consumes 2 hydrogen at a rate of 20 hydrogen per minute. Each of these only can produce 15 hydrogen per minute. And since it only produces 15 hydrogen, that's 15, 30, 45, plus 60, which would be 105, and each one of these is consuming... Now, each one of those shouldn't be consuming enough to... Well, I guess since they're 3 tall, you have to keep in mind these are 3 tall. So these are producing 10 per minute, consuming 2 hydrogen, which means each tower is consuming 30 per minute, which means between the two we're consuming 60 per minute. We should actually be able to run 3 full towers, but I'm assuming because of the travel time itself, because these conveyors are pretty slow, we see that dramatic slowdown in how long it takes for the cubes to reach there. And that's alright. We have cube production going on, and once the research kind of finishes, we'll be in a pretty good spot. So we're actually still using quite a few blue cubes and stuff. And obviously once those finish, these tier 1 researches for the mecha require components instead of actual tech. We still have these chemical labs. We can also go, if we zoom out here and we turn on our resource vein map, we can actually go over here and get some more crude oil, and over here and get some more crude oil. And actually, unfortunately, both those crude oil veins are pretty small. So as you can see, our crude oil vein here is a production speed of 1.6, and this is a crude oil production of 2.35. But we could go over here, and there's 3 up here that we could pull from pretty easily to make some red cubes. And we can start bringing the red cubes over and down through there. But that's going to be it for this episode, episode 3 of the Dyson Sphere program. We're still on our home planet here, but we did complete, in between episodes, the Equatorial power range. And on screen today, I mean, we did quite a bit too. We managed to complete our Tower of Matrix production for red cubes. We completed a beautifully, I'm gonna say beautifully done tool, crude oil or refined oil production and hydrogen production facility. And of course, between episodes, or potentially next episode, I might work on connecting over to these 2 crude oil veins here and bringing their crude oil over and probably down along with their hydrogen, or no, I'll probably refine it and utilize their crude oil up there and transfer just their hydrogen over here, and then transport it down and into this conveyor here, where it'll meet up with the rest of the hydrogen and basically make lots of hydrogen or red matrix cubes. But that is, again, I think that's all we can do for this episode. Kind of check out the facility. Next episode, we might focus on maybe turning this coal system here into a more advanced coal system and removing some of these wind turbines, since we have lots of wind turbines kind of all over the place, and we're only consuming about a quarter of the power we currently produce. And if we transfer some of the systems, including exchanging the current coal system to a more efficient system, or rather not more efficient, but a new system probably running 4 of these extractors along this side and turning this into energetic graphite to burn into the coal, the thermal power stations, and maybe up the number of thermal power stations to a few more just to make the system look a little bit better. But that will be next episode's problem, and we just got thruster tech. Instead of this episode's problem, like I said, next episode's problem, not today's problem. But without further ado, have a good one. And if you liked and enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe down below for some more content. And check out my Patreon if you want to help support the channel so that I can keep making these YouTube videos for you guys. But without further ado, have a great one, and I will see you all later.